Well, good afternoon, good morning, good late afternoon to some of you. My name is John Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of the Service Council. Welcome to today's presentation of our inService podcast series. This is our second edition for the year. This is our first spotlight. The first one, Gerardo and I controlled and talked through our predictions for this coming year, our top 10 predictions, which if you'd like to revisit that, please visit our website or find it on social channels or podcast channels. Today, we're going to be talking about future-fueled AI's role in next-gen service. How do we evolve the mindset of service leaders to a next-gen mindset? And what is AI's role in that? And I got to tell you, there's some really interesting signals that we're looking at with respect to the data that are suggesting that service leaders are perhaps retreating to a conservative cost orientation in terms of their mindset. And next-gen service leaders are, without question, on the offensive. They're on the offensive in terms of commandeering the IT roadmap. They're on the offensive of commandeering their pathway to the C-suite. They're on the offensive with respect to basically anointing service as a cultural initiative and a cultural important to the cultural fabric of their organization. And so I'm super pleased to be rejoined. This is maybe our second, third, fourth. I don't know where we are in the count, Niken. But Niken Patel is the CEO of Neuron7, a great partner of the Service Council. A very warm welcome to you, Niken. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Excited about our conversation. Yeah, this is our second one, so look forward to it.
Absolutely. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Gerardo Pelayo. Gerardo is the VP of Research and Advisory at the Service Council, and he'll be moderating today's Q&A. But before we do that, let's jump in. Niken, if you could perhaps introduce yourself, your organization, and maybe give a snapshot of where Neuron7 is on its path.
Yeah, sure. So Niken Patel, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Neuron7. Neuron7, we just completed our 5-year anniversary in this last month. It's been an incredible journey. We are absolutely sniper-like focused in the world of service, bringing the best of AI, NLP, Gen AI, agentic AI, all of that to the world of service. And we are trying to create a new category called resolution intelligence. If you think about resolutions being at the heart of what service organizations do, Neuron7 wants to go in and leverage AI to completely, significantly transform the world of service and the lives of technicians who use our product. So what Google Maps did for drivers and car drivers back, think about the world without navigation apps. We're trying to create a navigation app, and we want to give it in the hands of every single technician and call center agent and service engineer in the world to make their lives as productive as navigation apps have done to drivers.
Outstanding. Outstanding. I'll turn things over to Gerardo to lead us through our discussion.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And Niken, thank you for joining us once again. And very timely conversation as well, because we currently have our state of artificial intelligence and service technologies research in market. And one of the data points that really hit me is that 49% of service leaders right now, despite all the acceleration around artificial intelligence, say that their organization does not have a clear and coherent business strategy for artificial intelligence. And so before we get into the hows and the whys of, and very interested in picking on this concept of resolution intelligence and what it really means, let's take a step back, and can you share some clarity perhaps that is much needed around the different shapes of AI and how organizations could start to think about this, especially so around Gen AI, agentic AI, some of the newer terms.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Like I said, I'm sniper-like focused in the world of service, so I'll sit in that cross section of service and the world of AI. And so let me try to bring in context everything that I say in the service world, right? So I think if you think about it, there is different forms of AI. There is no reason to kind of put everything under one blanket. Even machine learning models and classification models of the past are still very relevant on certain use cases. So I think the number one thing is the models of AI and the different design patterns of AI should be mapped to what use case you're trying to solve for your company and from a service perspective, right? If you think of the 4 or 5 big design patterns that have come in AI, I'll kind of go through them and then give you examples on each. I think the first original one, the most common things were the whole machine learning and classification models, right? This is where the world first understood AI. It's basically give me 400 records, and then I'll tell you the prediction on the next record that I've not even made the AI, the AI has not learned from. It's like classic cats and dogs images, and I'll tell you the next thing is whether it's a cat or dog. But I think it's very relevant from a classification model perspective. There's linear regression. So when the world started with that, hey, I can go in and classify my cases into different, is this a billing issue? Is this a product issue? And so on and so forth, based on past data, right? So that's one set of tools and use cases, very relevant even today. Next scam in around 2017 is where Neuron7 and a bunch of other companies came into being. And the reason, one of the biggest reasons was BERT, that got open sourced by Google, right? The whole coming of transformers into the world, where today, if you think about it, we have incredible understanding of human language and unstructured text, right? We were first just searching things on keyword-based search, right? BERT and other transformers, right? AI models were the next generation that you're now able to do things like semantic search, sentiment analysis. I can go in, look at language, and at scale for every single incoming case, I can basically figure out whether this is a pissed off customer or not, stuff like that, right? So that advent was probably a huge breakthrough. That's where we came into being, and we said, wow, this is got the potential of completely changing the world of AI, right? And we were still trying to convince the world to use AI. Hey, this is possible. And Neuron7's best buying sign from a customer when we used to pitch was, this is too good to be true. Are you serious? And we're like, okay, if we prove this out, will you buy? Right? So, and then that question completely changed when ChatGPT came in, right? So Gen AI, generative AI, when I first saw it, absolutely blown away like everybody else, right? But it's the next generation, the next design pattern, where think about just the concept for a second. These are companies that train their AI on the entire internet's data. The idea, the internet data is going to double next year, double in 1 year compared. The world is going to produce that much data. And we're at a point where these guys are going to run out of data and they're going to now go to synthetic data. But the idea is that LLMs understand so many different topics or context that came in and blew the world away. So from a service perspective, what does it mean? I now have humongous productivity enhancements, right? Before I go into a case, I can now, pre-case summaries, post-case summaries, automatic article generation, right? I came up with something. It's the world was used to Gmail giving you and predicting the next word, and that now just looks cute compared to what LLMs can do, right? They can now go in and they are autocomplete on steroids or double steroids or whatever. All of those tasks, right, are now in the service organization ready for productivity, right? And where we're going next, right, is agentic AI. It's incredibly important to differentiate between what agentic AI is and what Gen AI is, right? There is a lot of people completely confused and they think, all right, if I use RAG, I give it to a generative LLM, that's agentic AI. It's not. Agentic AI is the next design pattern on AI, right? So we've gone from classification and ML models to the BERTs of the world, transformers, to Gen AI, and now comes agentic AI, where I think it's incredibly interesting. What happens next is agentic AI is agents that are autonomous, right? That are self-reflecting, right? With a Gen AI, what you're saying is, here's a case, summarize and give it back to me, right? The agentic AI is going to go in and look at a task that they're doing and they'll reflect upon it, saying, it's like writing an essay when you're in college. You wrote an essay, you wrote the first draft, and then you look and like, is it good? What else do I need to research? And you revisit it and you reflect. Version 7 is fantastic, right? Version 7 of an agentic AI is way more accurate than a Gen AI can produce. It's autonomous, it plans, and now you can break up the request that you have into multiple smaller tasks, right? One is just looking at the image that came in. Second is asking for resolutions. Neuron 7 is a fantastic example, not to get too deep there, but it's autonomously going and getting complex issue resolved autonomously without a human in the picture. Self-learning and planning and reasoning. Can you do that? Absolutely. And that's where we are in the world. And that's why it's so exciting. But those are the whole relevance to service organization.
All of which is taking us on this path to super intelligence AI, right? And super intelligent AI, which is like the nirvana of AI, right? In terms of basically establishing a new relationship with AI, right? And where agentic is not only the decision patterning, but also the actioning against the data autonomously, right? And there's an element of actioning. And then you've got these processing interpretation layers of NLP and computer vision and everything else kind of fueling it, right? And it's ultimately pointing back to this new relationship with data, not only from a leadership perspective, but right down to the front line. Because one of the things that we're still looking at is how much of the day is impacted at the front line by friction, right? So 52% of the field service engineer, their day is still spent on either collecting data, analyzing data, finding data, or paperwork and admin tasks, right? How do we minimize that in terms of these tools that can take us on a journey of a new relationship with data and intelligence?
Yeah, I think the onus is on us as an industry, right? Neuron 7, its peers, its competitors, the world of AI first product companies need to figure this out. I don't think the onus is on the customer who buys from us. We need to make it frictionless for the technician who's consuming our predictions, right? We are in the world of, I think it's like, there's no question that we are in the world of accuracy, right? The person who's 10% more accurate compared to his competitor saves millions of dollars for large global companies. But then we're also, like at Neuron 7, we have three tenets. Accuracy is number one because we know we're in the world of accuracy, but the second one is frictionless, right? And for us, and then speed to value is number three, but making it frictionless so that the agents that you're producing, we're a specialized agent that goes in and does resolution intelligence, right? That decision making is worth millions of dollars for my customers because they make tons of those decisions every hour. But the field service technician or the service engineer in the call center, they should be pushed the answer in the context of their day in a life, right? As soon as the case came in or a work order came in, the agent is working on making that person productive in a frictionless manner, that they are not going and hitting even a single button to go get those answers back. I think that onus is on us. And I think you will see the design, the first Neuron 7 application that we had compared to where we are today at 4 years down the road is the night and day difference. Like I'm still absolutely not satisfied with where we are at. But it is going to be seamless no matter what use case it is. And agentic AI actually an independent agent per use case, whether it's specialized or a generic tool, will make that friction go away even more, where you're going to be surrounded by 2 or 3 agents, and that's the next gen.
I just want to encourage our audience, and I'll turn it back to you, Gerardo, that if you'd like to submit some questions of your own to today's guests, Niken, we encourage you to do so. We're looking at you on LinkedIn Live. Thank you for joining us. So we're here, and Niken has agreed to think on his feet here in terms of any questions that are submitted through the portal. So back to you, Gerardo.
Yeah, absolutely. And that provided a lot of clarity, Niken. One observation I have as you were describing this in terms of the use cases, which I really like, is the behavioral components that are probably going to separate the ability of different organizations to take advantage of this, particularly when it comes to agentic AI.
Yeah.
Because we are moving from a tool that I'm using, ever more powerful tools, but they were tools up to that point, And now agentic AI, one might argue that it's an agent that you have to interact with, just by definition of the name, and that changes the nature of implementation and the way that organizations position themselves from a change management, communication, culture perspective. I believe it's going to be critical, and we'll touch on that as we get into some of the examples later today, I'm sure. One of the things that I wanted to double click on is taking that next step in the use cases. And in another one of our research part of our research agenda is the service leaders agenda that we conduct on an annual basis. We are releasing the 2025 version next week, in fact, but last year, the number one focus area was service innovation. And the number one technology that people were investing was artificial intelligence. Intuitively, one would think these two are connected, but that's not necessarily the case, that one implies the other. So as we think about what that connection looks like, and there's terms like next-gen service, what does next-gen service bring, like from a pragmatic perspective? What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, let me address the next-gen service first, and then I'll go back to the innovation side, right? I think, kind of tying off on the discussion that we just had to the next-gen service, right? I think what you're going to see is, let's take a step back, right? AI is the new UI, right? What is happening is, we are now saying the world is going to be used to conversations. You're going to be able to talk to agents on the specialized tasks that you're going to do. I don't need to go look at my phone screen. I don't need to look at my laptop, none of it, right? I'll be able to talk to an agent on anything and that's the new form of UI. Why is Microsoft and Salesforce and everybody jumping headfirst into it? Is because they're like, hey, I already have so much of your data. I'm not going to be Salesforce and let Microsoft Copilot sit on top of my data and have you have the conversation. I need to own that piece of UI as well, right? That's how the world is going to interact. Through agents, it's going to interact through this. And so I think in the next-gen service, the way the world, I think, is going to look like is you are going to have a bunch of agents helping you out as a human, right, in your world. And then there is going to be a bunch of agents helping you in self-service mode, your customers, where as a human, I'm working for one of the large manufacturing organizations or high-tech or med device companies and stuff like that. And I have a couple of generic agents that are helping with my daily life. What is my HR? How much vacation do I have? Where do I go order a new laptop? That's my ITSM service request agent and stuff like that. That's the generic stuff, right? And then there are things that I do every single day. I'm an engineer that fixes product issues, and I have a very specialized agent like Neuron7 helping me out. Or I have something on the sentiment analysis, or I'm sitting in the dispatch center and I have an agent that helps with dispatch. So I have 2 or 3 specialized agents helping with my core job, which is complex, deep domain work. And then I have a generic AI, a bunch of agents that is helping me on everything else that I have to answer. And I think that is how the world of AI is going to look like. And same thing for your customers. They're going to come to the website, or they're going to come to whatever form, right, of AI is going to take, and they're going to converse with your company, but it's autonomous. There's actually not a human, right? So we need to get our agents to that level of accuracy. Again, accuracy, frictionless, speak to value, right, which is our ethos as a company. But you need to get them super accurate, because you can't have a conversation with an idiot too long, right? If the answer, you want to have a conversation with somebody smart. So if the answers are, let's say I'm at 50% accuracy, which means you have to guess 1 out of 2 answers is accurate and not. What is going to be your level of adaptation of that? And you
flip a coin.
So I think that's why this is frictionless is super important. That is going to be the new AI. But somebody was saying, man, you're describing Jarvis from Iron Man here, and Tony Stark having Jarvis. And I'm like, yeah, think about it a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying it's science fiction, but Jarvis understands human language. It is specialized in a bunch of tasks. It can break things down autonomously and do it. We are heading there, maybe 10 years, but in 3 or 4 years, you're going to have many Jarvises across the board.
I want to go back to my opening statements around this existential threat, because I think it speaks to this next-gen service leader mindset around innovation, which is embracing a culture of innovation where it comes all the way down to the front line, all the way back up to leadership, right? We still see a disconnect from the front line in terms of their belief that management actually involves and listens to them and their role in innovation. So embracing the front line's viewpoints into innovation is a big part of it. The other thing is, next gen service leaders, they are potentially threatened. If you really look at the data, if you peel back the onion, you've got regionalization of leadership in org charts where there's country leaders overseeing customer commercialization of customer, but also support of customers in region. To what degree will chief service officers rise or fall as we think about that regionalization and what's happening there? And so the next gen service leader mindset needs to go on the offensive to commandeer and standardize some of these customer support functions, but also commandeer the IT roadmap, because you see this battle that's happening, right? Where, last year, one of the trends from the service leaders agenda was, CRM was battling against field service and service lifecycle management platforms. And our research was indicating that, for more ruggedized asset manufacturing industries, there's greater needs than CRM, right? There's BOM and warranty entitlements and asset lifecycle from cradle to grave, right? There's a greater requirement there. So there was an advocacy for a deeper platform that was enabling that. But we're seeing a new challenge with respect to IT and functional service leaders in terms of who controls the IT agenda, right? All this pockets of innovation that have been happening across service enterprise with AI, trialing, piloting, and maybe even getting to scale. What will happen to that? Will it go away when IT takes control of this corporate mandate, right? So
that is
anyways.
so much. I think we've learned so much, John, in the last 5 years that we can literally talk for 5 hours on that one. Like let me try to distill this out on the most important things here.
Please.
What you said on the user adoption side is so incredibly critical, more so in the world of AI. Let's learn from the world of enterprise software and cloud that all of us went through, right? There are things that are super relevant. There are things that we need to think brand new on, right? Like a new one. User adoption is incredibly important. Why? Because if your technicians don't feel that this is a tool that is accurate at helping me in my day job and they don't adopt, and you as a leader are not standing behind your tool, they're not using this tool, then AI is very dependent on learning from humans and data on an ongoing basis. It's almost a virtuous cycle you can create for yourself, or a vicious cycle, right? What I mean is, rolled out a tool, got super adopted, AI got a ton of feedback, tool became better, adoption went higher. It's a virtuous cycle. It actually is going to go in the reverse cycle as well. Tool did not get adopted, AI doesn't learn, becomes more inaccurate as new issues and stuff come in. Adoption is a problem, and then so what are you going to do about this cycle? And so I think I am 100% in agreement that there is the technology aspect, and then there is the human aspect on change management or user adoption. That has not changed. It's actually become even more important. I think so now let me go to the whole, the dynamics on the IT, the service seat at the table side, right?
Yeah.
One thing is, this train has left the station big time. You have no option. Service AI is going to be in the application world, in the service world. You have two options, right? Your board members are reading Wall Street Journal. They're getting exposed to AI. They'll come to the CEO. The CEO comes to the VP of Global Service and the CIO. And everybody wants to come across as educated, in execution mode, doing something about it, because you do not want to be the person that 3 of your competitors out of 10 have already gone on that journey. They're out there talking about it. And you are somebody who has not even started, right? That is when you lose your seat at the table. That is when your bosses think, hey, do I need a more AI ready, somebody who gets it in the mix? And why do you want to fall short of that race? So I think you want to put that switch in your head. We can see very clearly when we talk to companies. And then there is a simple question in front of service leaders, right? How am I going to start on this journey? Am I going to start with a safe, easy button? Nothing wrong with that. Let me prove it out, and then I'll go crazy. Or I have leaders who are like, let me take something that is impactful. If I show impact of $5-10 million, I'm going to have a seat at the table from an AI perspective, and the service department is going to be used as an example for supply chain and IT and everybody else to emulate, right?
Yeah.
My suggestion is you take both. Take a couple of use cases that are easy and then work on transformative stuff, right? But get educated, get going. Don't wait for good to great to ruin good, right? There is a framework that I have in mind that we can discuss as to how they can go about thinking about this, going back to your AI models and stuff like that, as to how they think about the use cases of the different AIs and stuff like that. But
I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna get into that right next, actually. But we do have a couple questions from our listening now participating audience. If we could sidebar on those, Gerardo, do you have any reactions to the discussion so far before we enter some of these questions?
Let's go to the questions. I see that there's a lot of interest around agentic AI.
Absolutely.
So we can probably have this as a little bit of a teaser, because one of the as we're giving you a chance to read through this, Niken, one of the important things that we've heard as well on the part of service leaders is, how do I get started? Meaning, when I get into the world of AI, what does an investment really look like? Is it a point solution? Is it something else? And how do I get over the initial roadblocks, starting with ROI and the way in which the outcomes, the benefits that we've started to talk about, how they get truly measured. So let's address these questions and then go back to that so that we can provide some clarity on how to get a smart head start in the AI journey.
Okay. So I'm going to go answer this LinkedIn user question, and then I'll use your question to augment it. So I think the adoption of agentic AI today, it's just starting, right? That is, we are at a point right now from an education perspective where truly advanced service leaders are asking questions based on the use cases, saying, is this an agentic AI use case, or is this a Gen AI use case, or what is it? Or is this a use case that even should include AI in the first place, right? So they come to us with their priorities, and then we are kind of helping them. But I can clearly see the adoption of agentic AI is started for sure in companies, right? I think you want to understand, okay, this is an agentic AI use case, and like I said, right, it's got autonomous, it's got reflection, it's got planning and reasoning. There are 4 or 5 criteria that you use. You're like, okay, that's an agentic AI use case. Case in point, Harvey, which is legal language, right? Neuron7, which is resolutions, autonomously on complex issues without a human in the picture. Can we go into resolution path mode on 20-30% of repeating cases? Absolutely. It's in production today, right? We just basically talked to a customer saying we're saving $4.5 million a year on that particular use case, right? So it's in production, it's saving millions. You have to choose and you have to get educated. So we are there already. Is it a customer-facing application? Absolutely, right? So 9 out of 10 customers want to first test this out internally, right? At least in our case, it's very true. They're like, yes, I want to put this on my self-service mode in front of customers, but I'm going to have my people first test it out. We want to use this in a phase 1 pilot mode for 8 months. If it works on the long tail in their day-to-day life. Here's the percentage accuracy score that we give them. And they're like, that's good enough. Let's go, right? 20% is too big for me to pass up. It's a big ROI of 4.8 million that I want to get going on. So I think that's what we are seeing today, right? Where do you get started is a whole different discussion. But let me see if this answer makes sense first. Okay, so I think there's a question, dispatch and scheduling world, both from an optimization standpoint as well as customer facing. This has already entered the dispatching and scheduling world, by the way, right? So it's not a question of whether it will be. It is already. I think you get to just like anything else, you will need to prep up for a few months where you are ready to put this in production at scale, right? So in our world, most use cases are coming in, and what we are deciding on is, all right, what is your appetite of risk here, Mr. Customer, right? 9 out of 10 times we are choosing between one or two options. One is, I'm going to put this in front of my top 50 people. We're going to use the most complex products in that mini environment. If you guys can prove this out, then we'll go in and put it to the rest of the organization, which is thousands of people worldwide. That's one. The other way is, I'm going to go tier wise. I'm going to put this in tier one, right? Let's take the top issues and now put it in an autonomous fashion, in a self-service mode. So I think there is a prep work required, which is the same for dispatch and scheduling world as well. As soon as you finish with that prep work, finish with the pilot, you should be going into a point of optimization and autonomous agents handling it.
Yeah.
And Niken, could we get to this? Could we get to this next point around how is the AI working with the existing software stack, whether it be FSM, customer, CRM, et cetera? One of the things that we observe and we talked about in our recent predictions was this notion that legacy IT was threatened, that the scalability of some of the older platforms that were built prior to this wave of innovation around intelligence wasn't built with scale in mind and with these capabilities in mind. And so there's poor performance related issues, there's security vulnerabilities, there's interoperability challenges, there's the old challenge of scalability, right? So what are your viewpoints on working with legacy systems, or perhaps even legacy systems evolving as AI becomes more popular and adopted?
Yeah, this is an incredibly important topic. Almost every single customer is. So here's how I think about this, right? Let's think about application and the AI world, like your entire universe, in three different buckets. There's a system of record. The system of record is your CRM tool, field service tool, ERP, supply chain management software. You're going in and doing case management. You're noting down the case, work orders, opportunities in sales and stuff. So that's my system of record, right? There's something called the system of intelligence. The system of intelligence are being built as we speak, right? Where there is decision making using AI, using agentic AI, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, what is it helping you with? This system of intelligence is helping you make decisions at scale, right? 5,000 people worldwide serving customers in service call centers and so on and so forth. I have a system of intelligence that making all of them productive, right? That's what the Neuron7s of the world are building for the world of service. And then there's a system of action. I got a prediction, right? Can I just automatically reboot the device? Can I collect log files? Can I go in and send a brand new firmware? Whether you do that autonomously or not, there's a system of action that does that, right? ServiceNow, Salesforce, SAP, Microsoft, the big four, right, are trying to go in and say system of record, system of intelligence, system of action. Of course, they want it all, right? And I think that is where IT departments and service, like I think the whole world is, if you are educated on the AI journey and you want to get ownership of this tool for yourself, right, then you have a seat at the table, right? I think the AI world is working and innovating at a much faster pace than integrating data, putting in the data foundation, and so on and so forth. The reason why I absolutely believe this is a business stakeholder ownership and not an IT ownership is there's a practical reason behind it, right? Yeah. The input and the output of AI agents and AI programs and applications is business subject matter expert folks, right? Think about it. When Neuron7 gives a prediction on things like industrial printers and oscilloscopes and network switches and optical network switches and stuff like that, we are not experts, right? When we basically go and give predictions for 1 million cases, somebody on the business side needs to validate and ensure. Of course, there is ways to do that automatically after we have the initial set, but the business stakeholder is in charge of the input and output and accuracy, and that's why there should be a business stakeholder decision-driven program, right? And the more educated they are, the more they're going to collaborate with the IT application folks, right? So from IT perspective, security, the data readiness, all of those is where they own. The output of this program should be owned by business, and that's where the collaboration should happen between the two, right? And there is a framework of selecting the right use case and the right type of agent, whether it's specialized or generic, that I think everybody is going to get educated in the next 4 to 5 quarters, just like anything else, and start driving those programs.
Yeah, that is great insight, Niken, because one of the things that we're seeing in the in-market survey I was referencing earlier on the state of AI is that this interaction between IT and the service organization and who owns what is all over the spectrum. No single setup is being reported as utilized by over a quarter of the organizations, whether it's full enterprise level ownership by IT or full ownership by the pockets of operations, very disaggregated.
Yeah.
You have all flavors of the rainbow.
Absolutely.
There. So
it's almost like we're back to square one. We're back to the world of a single platform versus best of breed. It's like deja vu for people like me who are like part of the. It's like, okay, if it is a best of breed platform, then the business stakeholder and the business function should own it, right? But then if it's an enterprise-wide platform that is standardized, then we should have a central leadership owning it. But that comes in the way of quickly going and innovating and stuff like that, right? My thing is absolutely from a security perspective, from a data segregation perspective, from an integration perspective, IT should be driving it, right? But unless you're a company that can go hire 100 Google data scientists, right? You don't have a business of being in the world of AI and building those tools, right? Unless it's your core product, right? Yeah. It's again, build versus buy, best of breed versus a single platform, right? There was a point where 15 years ago, right, John and Gerardo, you basically had everything is going to be SAP and Oracle. Why? Because that's the enterprise platform. And here we are, right? Everything has been best of breed in the cloud, right? You have best of breed applications across the board. So whether we're going to have that or not, I think it's going to play a central role. Build versus buy is going to play a central role between IT versus not. But I think I'm very, very clear. I think it's going to be business function ownership or individual applications, but IT kind of defining the standards on security and data governance for all the companies. But then it's kind of your outcomes and your application. And the only thing missing is partnering and education.
And by the way, you walk the talk, Nick, and your predictive accuracy is on spot. The topic that you were describing, it's a question that was in the pointed out by one of the our listening audience. So yes.
Yeah, I mean,
great.
I think I'll give you a very quick framework that I have in mind. I was just talking about it's fresh in my mind. I think so. You start with, so let's say I'm the VP of Global Service, right? The first thing I start, and I basically have all this plethora of companies pitching AI. I've got my SI partners pitching AI in a build mode, my internal IT department and CTO. That is, my systems of records, the Oracles and the SAPs and the Salesforces of the world that are best of breed people. How do I go about navigating this, right? The first thing is industry. What industry are you part of, right? If you're part of retail, inServices, think about it, LLMs, the biggest thing they give you is without having to spend 7-8 months on fine-tuning data, they already are trained on a bunch of things that give you insights on. But they're trained on the internet, which means if I have check-in account problems, if I'm returning a trouser to Saks Fifth Avenue, they understand all of that. Things that me easily understand. What do they not understand is deep domain industry stuff that is behind the firewall. If you take a GE Healthcare, if you take a Honeywell, tons and tons of data is not out in the open. Think about how much of GE Healthcare's data is out in the open and how much is within the firewall. They're not trained on that. So if you are an industry that is B2C with trained data on the internet, congratulations, you have a lot of options. Right? The other side, industrial equipment and high tech and others, fewer options. All right, so then you go in and say, do I need for this particular use case a generic AI tool? Or do I need something that is deep domain, agentic AI that is deep domain that I need to kind of go in and understand, right? And train and get together on. The generic AI tools, is really a build mode. You can go in and get something from an Azure, or you can go build something with the Databricks and stuff like that, right? But you still some sort of build mode is going on, right? So you want to look at a use case and say, how generic is this use case? How, like, we go back to that agents that we were talking about. I got 4 agents around me. 2 of them are helping me with deep domain, important things that I do as my day job, 8 hours a day. And there are 2 that are easy, my HR and ITSM and stuff like that. And that's how people are going to think, like, okay, so this is a generic AI use case. This is a deep domain AI use case. And I think that's how you should absolutely build generic AI very quickly with the systems of records, right? Salesforce, Agentforce, and ServiceNow, Now Assist, and stuff like that. Fantastic. Get going, right? And then for the deep domain stuff, that is where legal language comes in, right? What is oscilloscope issues and errors and 10,000 manuals? Your POCs will work great when people are pitching to you on 5 manuals. This conversation is easy, right? But when it's 700 manuals and 10,000 manuals, which are 400 pages each of technical data, all hell will break loose. Nothing will make sense. It's akin to, we are having a great conversation right now, very clear. If I have 1 inch away a rock band playing very, very loudly, and I'm trying to have that conversation, that's going to be super noisy and impossible. That's akin to how much distraction comes in when data comes in en masse, right? And you want a specialized tool for something like that. So I think that's how we go in from an industry perspective. Use case, is it generic or deep domain? And then you choose the vendors accordingly. I think that's how this framework is going to play out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I want to give enough time to materializing this framework, because I'll give you a good news and a bad news. The good news, especially for you, Niken, is 88% of organizations are planning to invest at least the same amount of budget in 2025 in AI as they did last year. 50%, by the way, are planning to significantly increase that budget. What's the bad news? That a quarter of the organizations say that they are doing something with AI, but the objectives are not quite clear. Another 20% say that they talk more about AI than what they're actually doing. So how do we get over the hump? And there's 3 main things that we're hearing are getting in the way. How to measure the benefits, the data security and interaction with IT, which we already touched on. And the last one is the lack of talent that can leverage AI. Yeah. So let's tackle those one by one, and starting with the ROI conversation.
I have a very positive outlook to this.
Yeah, right? What's a good way to measure this?
Yeah, I think that the bad news that you talked about, right, where people are like, well, we're talking a lot more than doing and stuff like that, right? I'm very positive where as companies like Neuron7 collect more and more successes along the way, right? If you go look at our website and look at the customers speaking about it at our conferences and videos and stuff like that, we are collecting and getting more and more customers successful. You know, we're in the 5 million ROI. We're not in the 50K ROI world, right? And I think as more and more success comes in, I think people are going to be believers and they're going to get off the conversations. So I'm seeing significant increase in people who are ready for action, right? The ROI piece, very, very critical, right? We do not give a bid to a customer without doing an ROI first, right? And that ROI has to be real, because the world of enterprise software for years has been selling lofty stuff that nobody believes in. We've now gone all the other way, all the other side. Our customer success folks get paid on that ROI, Mr. Customer. So it better be realistic, because it matters to my employees as much as it matters to you. So completely tie yourself with the customer, like you sink or swim together. It's as simple as that. Keep it hard only, no soft ROI, right? No customer experience is going to increase by 10%. How do you put a dollar figure to that? No. Parts will get reduced consumption by X%. We said X. Did we meet it? Up or below? So I think we discipline ourselves, learn from the sins of the past, sink or swim together, right? And then I would absolutely, there is one thing that I have, if I were in the shoes of my VP of Global Service, right? I would tell her, you absolutely want to go and get references of people that have deployed it at scale and with accuracy, and do not fall for the 5 manual trap. anybody can use a RAG architecture and send it to an AI and show you accuracy on 5 manuals. Like I said, 10,000, everybody's got a plan till you get knocked in the head or whatever that was, right? From Muhammad Ali, I mean, that's exactly, everybody's got a plan and then the data comes in. And when the data comes in, you want to go select a partner that has 5 references that say, these guys started in Jan. By Feb, this is what happened. By April, we are at 75% accuracy. By August, we are at 90% accuracy. Right now, I'm saving 4 million. If you don't have that, then don't fool yourselves, right? Because I think it impacts the credibility of the entire industry here. Like I want this to work because the pie, this is real. It's working today. And I want as many successes so that the believers are like, hey, it's time for action right now. But that's the way we think about it. We absolutely think about it with a lot of responsibility. And it's there, available today. The last piece that you said, right? So you talked about data security, you talked about ROI, and then you talked about talent availability, right? Mm-hmm. Talent availability is a humongous problem. It is humongous. It's humongous for us. It's humongous for the Googles of the world. It's humongous for our customers. And that's why you want to pick and choose. The reason why I think best of breed ultimately takes the day, just like it's done in the cloud and it's done in enterprise software. We've seen this movie twice, and this movie is coming again. And it's only going to go down that route, is because you cannot on every single use case create the sniper-like focus to make products better as a platform company. You just can't. You cannot build your way because you don't have Google engineers to build, right? Like, how are you you have barely enough engineers to make your own products AI enabled, right? For you to then think that I'm going to have enough engineers to go to supply chain and service and sales and website. How are you going to do hundreds of agents and use cases? So build versus buy does not make sense to me. I don't know why we keep on talking about that 30 years down the road still. And now it comes to platform versus not. And I think you go in and say, all right, is this an industry that is deep domain? Let me look at the specialized players that have proven accuracy. Why would I want to bet I think there's more people that don't do something because they fear that it's going to bomb. Right? I'm going to put my career on the line for 2 projects in 2 years. If those 2 projects don't work, right? My career gets impacted. I mean, that's human nature. I'd rather push it out, right? Why do I need to come into that courthouse and get a decision on myself? let me push it out. But then there is an implication of you pushing it out and your competitors figuring out and boss getting like, does this person get it or not? So I think it's the responsibility of this industry and companies like us to sink or swim together with our customers.
You know, I just want to comment on the pushing it out notion that you talked about, which is, you know, this element of like change management is a continuum, right? You talked about POCs, moving to pilot, moving to scale, and oftentimes pilots can be both the first step and the last step in an AI, taking AI to scale, right? If you don't do it correctly. And, you know, those next gen service leaders are going on the offensive. They're not thinking of AI as a threat. Because like one of the things that I hear commonly from service leaders is people are the differentiation that we have within the customer relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Our service people, and AI threatens the existence of our frontline in some way, right? The automation steps that are going to come about as a result of. That's just the wrong mindset. It's not one or the other, it's both, right? There's a marriage between a digital-led and a people-led approach. These things come together. And the next-gen service leader mindset is going on the offensive and thinking about the big picture of AI and knowing that it has to be attacked now. And it, you know, referencing the data that Gerardo was talking about, you know, at the beginning, middle, and end of 2024, we saw AI technology investments go from 27% to 49% to 62% in terms of prioritization. I can't wait for our service leaders agenda next month to see how prioritized it is, because I'm pretty sure it's still up and to the right. So you just got to figure out how to effect change and really get on this path, because otherwise you're going to lose. You're going to lose.
I'll tell you what we have learned, right? 5 years, probably worked with 150, looked at the data of 150 out of the Fortune 1000 companies out there. We learned a lot. We know exactly what corporate America and global data looks like, use cases and stuff like that. I think the big thing is, you'd be surprised to know this, John, when the phase one of our implementations, right? You'd be incredibly surprised if you've done this right, how open the front line is to getting tools like this. I think it's a misnomer that they're afraid of their jobs and stuff like that. They absolutely welcome the fact that you will put a tool. Of course, that tool needs to be accurate. Like, don't put something that is. And we have had missteps ourselves. So hey, Neuron7 is very different company than it was 3 years ago, because we are in an incredible growth mindset learning mode, right? And so I think but when you put the tools in the hands, think about it from a Neuron7 perspective, the long tail of issues, the one issue that happens once in 6 months, I don't need to rack my brain. I don't need to go call the same person over and over again. I have the entire long tail, right? The Google Maps and the navigation apps work is because, the definition of a driver 10 years ago was they need to know the city and they need to drive a car. Know the city is gone. Point A to point B, anywhere in the world, I can take it. If I can get accurate predictions on your entire 50,000 issues, the human is being helped, because I don't need to kind of go and think about everything. Your customers like immediate impact. Everybody likes turn-by-turn directions, right? So I think it's a misnomer. The way I would do the pilot versus the phase one conversation, that is, you are a custodian of the culture of your company, right? And here's what I tell customers. You are in one or two cultures, right? You're in a show me culture, right? And a POC is, take my data, show me a sophisticated demo on my data. Make sure it's accurate, make sure I can base, but I'm going to be able to go to 5, 10, 15 tests. A phase one pilot is my top 50 people or my top 20 people are going to be using this at scale and stuff like that, right? I'm going to go do this for a year, and then I'm going to go full blown or whatever it is, right? I see a lot more people choosing phase one, right? Because of multiple benefits that come with it, right? A pilot that comes with it. But when you have your top people be believers, there's something magical that happens when they do videos along with the executives for the rest of the organization. And then we get into that virtuous cycle I spoke about of user adoption, right? So I don't think people are afraid about their jobs. They want to learn AI. They want tools. In fact, I see the other way around, where I don't have tools to do my job well, right? And of course, the onus is on us as an industry to make it frictionless, right? If you're using Salesforce for 7,000 employees worldwide, we better seamlessly within your daily life. It should be like the Intel Inside concept, as we call it for Neuron7. If I don't say N7 on that object, they don't even know it's Neuron7. They think it's Salesforce functionality. That's how seamless our applications are coming out with every single use case. And that's our job. And we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that so that our customers and their technicians can benefit.
The data supports your claim. So according to the Voice of the Field Service Engineer survey, several thousand survey respondents, 10,000 over the last several years, 61% of our respondent pool from last year found AI to be positive and useful. So, and that's up significantly year over year. So I think you're absolutely right. The relationship between the technology innovation, in fact, the technology innovation is becoming an attractor to new talent into the industry, right? So there's an element of that as well. Gerardo, we're getting close on time here. I want to bring it back to you for any closing questions.
Yes, and quick supplement to what John was talking about. Also, the voice of a contact center agent. So it's not just the field, also that remote support option. We're seeing the very same trend. Specific use cases, guided workflows, and a more efficient interaction with data are something that the front line is showing a lot of appetite for. And I think that that's a very positive signal of where value lies. Before we wrap up, and we often talk about the data as a necessary foundation in order to drive insights. I really like how you created that foundation of expectations for service leaders of what the organizational structure needs to look like, what does the timeline need to look like, measuring the outcome. So I believe all of that is very valuable. Are there any other pitfalls or ways of identifying the outcomes that perhaps we haven't touched on and you would like to highlight before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I think couple of learnings there. We have customers that start with, "Hey, my data is really bad, right? And I am going to go fix all of my data as a foundation before I take on these projects," right? Mistake. You do not know what AI ready data is. Depending on the tool that you're going to use, the tool expects an input so that it can give a proper output. Is data foundation important? Incredibly important, right? The right designed AI product will leave you in a much better position than you were in before, right? Because it will throw out AI ready data, which is what Neuron7 does, for example, right? So, but you can't go fixing everything there is to fix without knowing, there are things that are easily now okay to have wrong in your data, inaccuracies and stuff like that. Companies like us have actually designed our tools around that stuff. We know that's reality. If you think your data is a B plus, it's actually a C minus, just so you know, right? It's pretty bad. So I think I'd kind of not index and spend your careers fixing stuff there. That's one. I'd basically also kind of go in and look at there are certain things that we are announcing on Feb 18th coming down from Neuron7. That's a big product launch that we are incredibly excited about, right? There are certain things that this industry, service as a whole, like we all know that expert capture, knowledge capture is humongously important, John. I think we've spoken about that in the Service Council, right? There is a silver tsunami going on. People are leaving this enterprise. People can't hire technicians enough and stuff like that. I think we've been working hard at that problem for almost 4 or 5 years and building on layers of products. We finally are at that level of sophistication, right, that we're going to crack some important codes, right? The guided navigation and Q&A and stuff like that is now ready to get into accuracy mode at scale, right? So I think what I would do is, the other advice apart from the data thing is just get educated on what is possible now, right? Don't shove everything under the carpet saying, well, this is not ready. Or there is, you need to go a couple of levels deeper. There are things that are ready to be solved. They are already being solved, and getting educated on that, not getting stuck behind the data traffic jam, having a framework of selection of right partners. I think it's super important for companies to go in the at scale piece. I cannot underline enough, right?
Yeah.
This is happening. The one thing that AI is now able to do is solve these issues at scale. I can actually go from an innovation perspective. We talked about this earlier on. The world was divided in silos: Japanese versus Portuguese versus Spanish versus English language, right? The same issues happen in Japan that happen in the US, right? We are at a point where I can learn from the entire globe. All those silos are gone. I can actually learn exactly how things are getting solved in Japan without any issue. Somebody asks a question in Japanese, the answer lies in a Portuguese case somewhere, or is in a smart resolution hub, and it'll basically give you that idea. That is possible. This is ready to go. We're live with one customer in 90 countries, another in 30 countries. It's important for you to know that, okay, this is possible, right? This is not where it is. And I think that will change the game.
Gerardo, back to you.
Yeah, so just wanted to quickly double click on one of the things you said, which is that foundational data as a source of investment. We see that in the service index. The level of maturity at the foundational level is significantly higher than the operational level. And because of that, the readiness to deliver an experience, it's just not there. So I really like how you close with that. And I would pass it over to you, John, for any final questions, if there's time.
Yeah, I've got one more for you, Niken. So we've talked about a lot of the business benefits. We've talked a lot about the how and the why and what can be expected. One of the things that our community really values is not stepping in it as well, right? So how do you avoid pitfalls, and what are some of those pitfalls with respect to AI? And can you list a couple that you've been encountering with some of your customers? Some of the decelerators.
Yeah, I think decelerators is going fast and releasing something based on a fad. So we have a customer that just absolutely just went live with LLMs across the company, and it became an embarrassment because it was going and constantly hallucinating and giving wrong results and stuff like that, right? So there is some pitfalls. It's not all rosy, right? There is pitfalls of choosing the wrong tool or going too fast and going live with something that should not have been. So right where we are saying don't be too conservative, there is also the idea of like just ensure that there is education on what you're doing and why. I think there is more pitfalls in inaction than there is kind of releasing something that is not. But I think as far as you use the whole piloting phase one aspect and ensure that it's with your subject matter experts that are approving it and stuff like that, I think write your contracts accordingly, then you're good. I do want to say that good AI products now have figured out the data inaccuracies, right? We do understand that, for example, case data in the past, you're bound to learn from the sins of the past, right? And so good AI products have figured out the inaccuracies and the handicaps on the data and have incorporated that into our solutions, right? We know, like, everybody initially was like, hey, parts prediction, simple. If I basically have thousands of cases in the past that issue A was part A, then I have parts predictions. That's a very simplest. That does not work, right? Because you have a ton of sins in the past, which is now repeated into your AI, and now you're going and actually impacting that metric. There's a much more sophisticated way of solving those things. So I think you'd be surprised at how far AI products have come. And so I would really come up with a methodology and a framework for your company. I'd not get stuck behind the data framework, and I would get educated. Those are the three things.
Outstanding. And for our listening audience, something about yourself personally, something you're looking forward to. I know we converted you to a Red Sox fan out here in Boston at the Verizon workshop, but something else personal about yourself.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to keep the juices flowing. So I'm somebody who kind of keeps, before Neuron7, golf was amazing. I don't have the heart to say I gotta go play golf for 4 hours over the weekend now with how busy I are. So I think Indian classical music is where I'm spending a lot of my time and over the weekends and stuff like that. And now tennis is my next big thing, where I always dabble with tennis now. So I try to mix it up and keep the juices flowing, taking something new on all the time. So next time we meet, we're going to take you to a cricket game, just like you did for the Red Sox.
Absolutely. I'll take you up on that. He's Niken Patel. He's the CEO of Neuron7. This has been a lively conversation. Thank you to our audience for tuning in and participating and submitting your questions and putting Niken on his toes here in terms of thinking and responding. Today's podcast is recorded. It'll be available on all social channels, LinkedIn, wherever you subscribe to your podcast, YouTube, etc. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next version. Niken, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, super easy conversation. Thank you for making it so easy.
Outstanding. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.